Never did see it. And we went on, landed at Belfast. It was in May. And they shipped us to Enniskillen. And I remember we went back to Belfast a couple of times by truck and unloaded ships with concrete. That was a mess. We had face masks on, but that dust was terrible. Choked you to death, that concrete. And we got that ship unloaded, and they shipped us back to Enniskillen again. And then more maneuvers, and then they took us to Moneymore, where they were building these huge Quonset storehouses, large metal buildings. And we worked there for, I don't know, I suppose a couple of months. Shipped us back to Enniskillen again, and then they shipped us out to England, at Liverpool, and we were there probably a couple weeks. And on Christmas Day, they loaded us on board the ship. I can't remember the name of that ship, Oranges or something like that. Yeah, and it was a mess too. I know the food was terrible, and the flour is full of cockroaches, and they took over the kitchen and sifted all that flour and got the cockroaches out of it, and our troops took over the kitchen and run the kitchen from then on. And we went through the Straits of Gibraltar. It seemed like it was at night. Seemed to be quite a few lights at Gibraltar.
Well, Tangiers on the African side, I think.
Yeah.
Not in Algiers.
Right. It wasn't at Algiers, no.
I mean, it wasn't Gibraltar. It was on the other side.
Right, on the other side of Gibraltar, to the south. Mm-hmm. And we landed at Algiers. And I can't remember how we got off board ship onto the docks. That was raining to beat the devil, and they took us to wherever it was going to be, and it seemed like it rained every day, and set up the pup tents in the mud and water running under them all the time. And they finally got everything together and loaded us on board the trucks, and that was probably a 900 or 1,000 mile trip across North Africa to the Tunisia area. And I remember one night we got so when we parked the trucks, we drove them in a circle like they did the covered wagons, because the Arabs were stealing everything from us. So we circled them in one night and put them in there. And I was on guard duty, and Trucker Wall was on guard duty with me, and he heard a noise out there in all those bushes, and he started shooting. And the next morning, we had our backpacks. A lot of them had them strapped on their trucks, and on the outside of the trucks, they'd all been cut off. And the lieutenant had slept just inside near where I was guarding, but some Arab got into his tent and stole his .45 while he was sleeping. We pulled out of that area, and of course most of the troops had bought a lot of eggs, and as we went out the gateway with a lot of Arabs with their big robes on, they egged them with those eggs, threw every egg they had at them. They had eggs running down those big old blanket things that they had on them. They were a mess. And we kept right on going with the trucks. And I can't remember, I know we couldn't go into the Tunisia area. We went down along the side, down Fonduque and Kasserine Pass. C Company was on duty at Castron Pass, and we were in reserve. And the Germans attacked C Company and the infantry that they were with. I think they had the 164th Infantry that they were
68th,
attached.
I think it
168th Infantry they were attached to. And a lot of them were taken prisoners that night. And then after that, we built miles of road for the tanks to travel over. And I remember that when they turned the tanks loose, going down that road, it was at night, darker than dark, and the tanks were just whizzing by us. I don't know where they were going. Never did hear. Then we went from there. We were up around Hill 609 someplace, and they used our outfit battalion and put us in the big cactus patch. And we were there. Oh, the sun was shining nice and bright. It was a nice day. And Captain DeCory gave us instructions to all dig foxholes. Well, it was a sandy ground, so it was easy digging. And I dug mine. I dug an L-shaped one. But some of the guys hadn't dug theirs. Two fellows on the half track, Salisbury and Malowitz, they hadn't dug theirs. When the shells started coming in, they dug theirs and nothing flat alongside that half track. And Francis Murphy worked in the kitchen, and the kitchen outfit was just right beside me, about 50 feet away. And Francis Murphy ran over and joined me in my foxhole. He hadn't dug one. So the two of us were in that foxhole for an hour, and the two of us suddenly realized, well, they were only firing right at that cactus patch. So we both jumped up and ran out of there probably half a mile to the west. Wasn't any shells coming in over there. We stayed there until it was almost 4 o'clock, and they'd finally quit firing in that cactus patch, and we went back to the cactus patch. And then everybody was busy cleaning up the mess. I remember we had a 4x4 truck that we carried 5-gallon cask cans in. It was completely full, but every tire was flat on it, and they never hit that truck. But every tire was flat. And a number of the trucks had flat tires. And I don't remember how they did that to get tires. They had to have sent to battalion to get those to get going, because I know they didn't have enough of them to get us out of there. And then suddenly about 5 o'clock, terrific explosions. I didn't know it, but 155 rifles had been camouflaged back behind us, and they turned loose with everything they had, firing those. And boy, I thought we'd really had it. And realized finally, it took a half hour before I realized it was those 155 rifles back there going. And the next morning we got everything picked up, and they took off. Went around the hill, and the first thing I saw around the hill must have been 40-some German tanks over there, all burned out hulks. Those 155 rifles must have laid them right into them. I don't know how they did it. They must have had people parked up on that hill so that they were really ironed in on them. They really did a mess on them.